three biggest stories throughout 2023.
Do they have to be in order?
No, and
Have
they
you
don't.
been called?
No, I'd
no,
like a 1, 2, 3. Start with your
so
third
you can
biggest.
clip it up.
I want your third biggest, please.
And they're yours. They don't have to be what you think.
Others think.
Yeah, they can just be yours.
biggest.
Yeah.
Well, how would I know what others think? Third biggest.
No, but just, the narrative that's
Yeah,
out
trying
there.
to-
Third biggest.
Yep.
Would be.
Have you given this any thought?
Damien, yeah.
Yep.
I was forewarned this morning
Right.
on my journey across the Westgate.
Just notice there's no notes.
Uh,
None. Like, not one scary.
No, I like where he's going for number 3.
number 3 would be Mr. Hardwick going from the Tigs.
Yes.
Firstly, resigning at Richmond, and then 90 days, as Damien Barrett keeps reminding us, 90 days later, putting the polo on at Gold Coast. The 3-time. Yes. Be a big story how they go next year too. I
Well,
think.
have you done enough deep diving into what next year looks like to have a sense whether or not they play finals footy next
No,
year?
not just as yet.
I know you're a bit
I tell you, it's charting the right way, though.
based
isn't
on
it?
what?
I've heard that before.
Well, based on just the quality of the players that they've been
The talent that's come through the doors through the
And-
draft, there's more on its way too.
and
a
I
couple
read the
next
story today that
There's
Matt
more than a
Rao.
couple.
Well, there's certainly 2.
There were 6 in the under-16 All-Australian team that are eligible for the Gold Coast Suns Academy.
Yeah, all right.
That's why he probably signed a 28-year contract.
Leo
Do you reckon
was-
that's why?
That Leo Lombardo. You seen him play?
Do you reckon that's why?
He goes,
But surely that's
Because of the talent coming in.
coming through, isn't it?
might have had a bit of that and a bit of the
What
Quan.
about the big bag
yeah,
that
the
arrived?
Quan and the talent.
Number 2.
Matt Rao, though, read a story today that he's got this new what?
Can you hear
Hard
the
out.
music?
Ah, my bad.
I'll do number 2 and then we'll do number
Got
1
a
on the other
raincoat.
side.
Why don't you just wait?
What, hook 2 and 1?
Yeah. We'll do number 2, JJ, Damien Hardwick and the move to the Gold Coast Suns. That's the third biggest story in the world of footy in 2023. What's the second biggest, please?
So I wanted to put some context around the most dramatic storylines of the year. I'll go with the flag pies at 2.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, we've been, some of us who infrequently appear on this show have been with the Pies for a long time. In fact, the start of the year before last.
You are a disgrace.
Oh, I'll bring up the headline if you want.
I was on him.
Yeah, well, that's
You know
okay.
that I was
I
on.
was too. So it's just good to see all their hard work come to fruition.
They
So
do a
I
lot of
think
things right. That footy
Whenever
club's
the
been doing-
biggest team in any competition wins the championship, it's big, right?
What about the fact that Andy didn't have him in the top 8?
I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true.
Wow.
Had him in the
Well,
top. If you
a
go
lot
to the
of
paper,
people-
they're in the top 8. So I
You
don't know.
didn't have him, and then we
Oh, hello.
A lot
And
of
then
So
people,
you're
we
not allowed to
said-
change your mind.
we
Okay,
said
no
you,
worries.
you know Craig comes in here every
You're not allowed to
second
change
week.
your mind, eh?
So I think you should put him in there. But in your own head, you didn't have him in the top 8.
So
Andy.
you reckon because you told me to put him in the 8, I'll put him in the 8.
No, I reckon
Thank
the
you.
fact that Craig that
really
comes in
limping
here.
to the line, you two, aren't
Anyway,
you?
sorry, you carry on.
No,
No,
outstanding.
but whenever, if the Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl, it's massive, right?
No doubt.
Whenever the Lakers or the Celtics win the NBA title, it's bigger than, say, if the Memphis Grizzlies win it. So
100.
I think the flag pies can be number 2. I actually think number 1 is the, now I'm not sure how you want to term it, but the arc failure that cost Adelaide a spot in the
Highly
final.
the biggest story of the year.
It's a bit
biggest-
negative.
The biggest
Well,
story of the
I'm
year.
well aware it's incredibly negative. But unfortunately, it cost the team a spot in September,
It did.
Andrew.
No, it did.
cost them a spot in the finals.
No, you're right. It's an issue, but you could say that there's umpiring decisions that go on every single week.
No,
that you
well,
could
this one
make
was specifically at the end of the game.
true. So it was more dramatic,
And
but
was unlike every other call, was able to be checked upon and was chosen to be not checked.
it's a valid point you're making.
Decker Henry's just dived into the end zone. And
Tied up.
They're going to go 1 point up. That's for 6, and the PAT will put them a
They've
point
got
up
an
against Miami.
They've got an incredible record as underdogs, Tennessee. It's their coach.
I love him.
Yes, they chose not to. Now, if you're thinking, oh, geez, was that really the biggest story? If you had to spend a few hours in Adelaide when it was happening, you would have felt the fire.
No doubt about that. And
They're still heaving
Yeah,
about
no,
it.
that'll burn deep within the pit of their guts.
Well, you know what? They drafted a big key back. If he's good straight away, the young fella, they should be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, they've got a lot going for them. So Paul, it's going to be a very competitive year over in Adelaide next year between the two teams over there. They could be.
Connor on the show.
Well,
How was
did.
he?
No, very impressive kid.
Is he?
Yeah, very impressive. Young man.
Kid anymore.
No, young man, 23-year-old. But no, wasn't he? Connor Rosey yesterday, Keith.
No, he was.
Very impressive.
8 years,
young man.
plenty of sheets.
Speaks really well. You can see why he's the captain. He was oozing leadership.
So what have been the three biggest stories in the world of the thoroughbred racing in Australia? Oh, it doesn't have to be in Australia. It can be global if you like.
I reckon
For you.
so we're going 3, 2,
Three,
or 1.
yeah, we
Three.
build the drama. Yeah, build
Three.
the drama, yeah.
I think Jamie Carr. Jamie Carr with that nasty fall in at the start of autumn in March, and she missed a long time. And we thought that maybe her career was over. Like, she was knocked out for a long time. She was in a coma for a couple of days, and she was struggling a lot after that nasty fall with concussion. But then she fought her way back, and then she had that setback or that drama with the
front
the
page
illicit
story, yep.
substance situation, which she pled not guilty to, but we've been through all of that. And then she was completely out of form at the start of the spring, and she lost her timing. She lost all types of rhythm. She lost her ability to read a race in a way. And then all of a sudden, on the biggest week of the year at Flemington, she turned it all around.
Fantastic.
She got a winner, and her confidence grew, and she hasn't really looked back since. So, and she's the participant that can transcend the sport in a way, Jamie Carr, because she came onto the scene. She won a Melbourne Premiership, and she was the talk of the town. And she had to make a couple of comebacks this year, and she did extremely well towards the back end. And it's great to see her back. Racing's better when she's winning.
Yep.
So Jamie Carr.
Where are we at with the other stuff? Is it done now?
I think there's a hearing. I think there's another hearing.
In terms of what rate?
To see if she gets fined or the sentence. I'll have to double check that.
No, it won't hold.
But even regardless of the outcome of that hearing, is it going to be consequential, or is it just it's going to be?
Depends. I think it depends if the tribunal says that she was guilty of putting the game into disrepute or she's not guilty. So that's the decision that they've got to make, and they haven't made that yet. And it's ridiculous. It's gone on for
But
this
even
long.
if they make it that she did,
I don't know.
will the
how long
penalty
she'll
be
get.
significant?
Yeah,
you
I
think?
think she might get a bit of a stretch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how long, but she might be. I don't know.
No, we have spent a bit of time talking about that, and I know down here, and I know you've done it significantly more than we have. So a resolution to that is, I'm sure, keenly anticipated for a lot of people in the racing caper. What about number two?
Jamie Carr's hearing has been completed, but we don't know. The findings are handed down, I think, on Friday.
Right, okay. Well, yeah, right, there you go.
So there you go. Thank you to
Number
Damien
two.
Ratcliffe for that information.
Thank you, Damien, who I
What
think
a superb man he is.
Benny Lyon might be getting in touch with Damien Ratcliffe about the big money greyhound race.
Yeah, that was going to be if you had a crystal ball, like She's Fast. Now, this is a greyhound that does transcend the sport of greyhound racing, Gazy. She won the first ever Phoenix, which is a slot race. It's worth just over $1 million.
What's a slot race?
Like where you have people that buy into the race, so they spend like $100,000. I think it is to get a slot into the
just to get in the race,
just to get into the race,
right,
and then they go and select their dog.
Yep.
She's Fast. It's won the first 2 Phoenixes, and this year it's worth $1.65 million. She had her back against the wall. We were wondering whether she still had the ability or the appetite to continue to compete at the highest level. She trialled the house down, Gazy, and they decided, hey, Sportsbet said, we'll give her one more crack at it. This is her farewell. So if she wins on Saturday night, it will be one of the all-time greatest sporting stories that I've ever seen, really. This wonderful bitch.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
She's fast.
Yeah.
That's been the star of the show from day one after she dominated on debut and nearly smashed the track record, Gazy. So She's Fast. You watch that Saturday night racing. It's a Rainmaker production.
How do you say it again?
I'm excited already.
I can tell how excited you are. That's not even number two.
No, she probably was fourth. If she won on Saturday's night, she'd probably go to one.
Yeah, of course.
What's the name of it again?
She's Fast.
She's Fast.
You can't
She's fast. Not She's Fast. She's fast.
She's fast.
Number two, Gareth.
Don't you be betting at Angle Park now after I've gave you those selections at Meadows, Casey.
You give me nothing.
I know you just decide
I'm off.
Yeah.
He still curses whenever your name gets mentioned, but anyway.
Number two.
Yes, please.
Would be like Frankie Dettori and Damien Oliver, two of the greats, all-time greats in different hemispheres. Frankie in the Northern Hemisphere and Ollie in the Southern Hemisphere, retiring. Now, Frankie retired and put on quite the farewell tour. It was one of his greatest ever seasons. And then towards the back end of the year, he says, "No, well, I'm going that well. I'm not retiring. In fact, I'm going
You're unretired.
No, I'm going to continue on my career in America, and I'll probably be back for the Melbourne Cup next year, but I won't probably race in Europe again. But I'm going to America, and then I might see if I can win a Melbourne Cup in 2024. And then Damien Oliver, he's the greatest of all time in this part of the world.
Yep.
He's the most successful Group 1 winning jockey. And on Saturday, it's his farewell meeting. They call it the Damien Oliver Gold Rush, worth $1.5 million. He rides Munamek for Nick Ryan. It's a great each-way chance, I think, in that race. And it would be a fitting farewell if Ollie could win his final big dance in a race named after him.
Imagine if he does.
On his home track at Ascot, where it all started.
That'd be
basically.
something, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Munamek.
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 All right. Why are you writing this down?
I've got a little something left in the account.
Yes. And do you know what the best part about that is, Gazy?
Yes.
It's in Perth, so it's 3 hours behind.
Right.
So it's right in the middle of the Meadows meeting as well. So you got the dogs and the gallops.
look at that.
Ascot
Back-to-back.
Meadows multi-gambling responsible.
Nice work. The biggest story in the world of racing.
Is it the
this
best
year.
story or the biggest story?
The biggest.
The biggest story.
In your mind, though, it doesn't have to be the.
I think the announcement from the ATC that they want to sell Rose Hill for $5 billion.
Yep.
That's a proposed sale. Now, when I first heard about this, I thought, what are they doing here? But then when you think about it, if they can actually get this deal across the line on the terms that they want, it will be one of the greatest deals of all time in any sport, because that will, as Peter McGowan, the chairman of the ATC, explained, it will future-proof the sport of thoroughbred racing. Like, you're not talking $5 million, you're talking $5 billion. So what they will do with that money is that they'll have enough money to build a world-class training complex at Horsley Park, which is just up the road from Rose Hill. They'll build another track. They'll upgrade Randwick. They'll upgrade Canterbury. They'll expand the track there at Canterbury. And then they'll build a new grandstand at Warwick Farm. And they should have a few billion, maybe $3 billion left in the bank.
That's unbelievable.
Now, whether they can get those funds straight away and how those funds will be given to them, I don't think they'll just get cash injection straight away, $5 billion. But the government, they'll have to do a pretty good deal with the government, then developers and all that have to come into play. But if they can pull it off, and as I said, the deal to me looks too good to be true, but that means racing in New South Wales and Sydney is future-proof, because doesn't matter really what the gambling revenue is doing. They've got $5 billion. Just the interest will be enable them to.
Well, isn't
run
it a
for big
relocation
prize
though?
money.
So they're going to have to spend a chunk of that on a relocation.
Well,
wouldn't
they wouldn't be able to get closer into the city.
No.
Because if they're paying $5 billion for Rose Hill. So I think if they upgrade Warwick Farm, Canterbury and Randwick, they build a track somewhere, maybe upgrade Hawkesbury, that'll do.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll have 2 tracks at Randwick. They'll probably build some lights, and that might make a change to Victoria. Who knows? If they can pull this off Sydney, that means they've got a pretty good head start on Victoria. And Victoria can't do that in a way because it's just the one club. They merged their 2 clubs in Sydney and they just call it the ATC now. Yeah. Well, we've got 3 clubs. Sandown, and the MRC, they've got Sandown and Caulfield. They've also got Mornington, Moonee Valley, of course, and the VRC.
Well, where does Peter Volandes sit in all of the Sydney stuff?
Peter Volandes has been pretty quiet on this. I'm trying to get him on my show. I don't know under agreements whether he can talk or not, but I would imagine everything goes by him anyway. If the ATC said to Peter Volandes, this is what we're thinking, and he's probably helping them do the deals. This is just me.
Yep.
This is just a guess from mine, but I reckon he would have had to give it the tick of approval. That's a massive story, and they can't sell Randwick. It's their biggest asset because it's Crown land.
Yep.
They could sell Canterbury for $500 million, but they want $5 billion.
It's staggering.
$5 billion.
His imagination will be running wild with all of that.
What would you do with $5 billion?
Jeez.
Buy a few mail. You could bring back the Melbourne Tigers.
Oh, my word.
It's been a joy on the way through to have Elissia Carnavas as part of this team, part of our football team here on 11-16 SEN. A magnificent job through the FIFA Women's World Cup. Of course, was good enough to be available to us throughout that magnificent tournament. The 3 biggest moments throughout the year in soccer/football, according to Elissia Carnavas. We're about to find out as she joins us on the show. Superstar, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, team. Nice to chat.
Now, I suspect we all know what your number one's going to be. So, but just
don't prejudge, Andy.
I wouldn't.
Don't prejudge.
So let's keep us in suspense for the time being. Work from 3 up to 1, Elissia. Your 3 biggest stories in the world of football/soccer throughout 2023, please.
Look, I've got to be pretty honest. I'm very Aussie biased with all 3. So I'll start with Ange Postecoglou.
Magnificent.
I think he's at 3 for me. Like that. I guess the rise of his coaching career into the Premier League over in England has just been sensational to watch with Tottenham. He's obviously born and bred Melbourne boy, a kid of immigrants from Greece, and to see his career just continue to ascend, what a story. I'm a Liverpool supporter, so when I'm supporting Tottenham from time to time, it tells you how well he's doing. So,
Elissia, it's nice. It's nice for those of us who have always had a team up north. It's nice for us to have a team down south now.
Isn't it nice? So I'm sitting there and I love what he's doing, and the best part about it for me is that he's actually not changed his brand of football at all. I remember spending time with him here at the Roar, up here in Brisbane, and it's the Ange way, and he's carried that the whole way through with his coaching career. So I think so far so good. Hats off to Ange, and long may it continue because he's a beacon for Australian coaches, that's for sure.
Here. Number 2.
Number 2 for me, without a doubt, is that wonderful, although we lost, semi-final against England, the Matildas. Sam Kerr's goal. That goal for me, without a doubt, one of the best moments, and I was in the stadium that night on the call, but one of the best moments I think as a nation we've experienced. The result, of course, not the way we wanted it to go, but that moment, that goal, that rise, I guess, to the occasion after the tournament that she had in terms of being injured and not sure she was even going to get any minutes. Phenomenal. One of the greatest moments, I think, in sport for us. Sam Kerr,
no doubt.
Second moments, that goal in a semi-final of a World Cup, sensational.
And numero uno?
Numero uno for me is another Matilda's moment. The quarterfinal against France in Brisbane was for me the number one moment for football as an Australian, I think that we've ever had. And I think what it did, not just for the country in that moment, I think it was exceptional going to penalty shootout with France and winning, but what it did, I think that was a real light switch moment for women's sport in a big, big way. That was a catalyst to change that match and that game and that moment, that Courtney Vine penalty to seal it. I think we all saw the scenes around the country, from Melbourne all the way around Australia. Pretty phenomenal stuff. So that would be my top 3. Very Aussie-centric, I'm sorry, rest of the world, but we had a really good year in football, so take it while we can.
Just remembering, as you were talking about the quarterfinal, I remember what it was like at our joint, and I reckon it would have been replicated by houses all over Australia. I've got 3 daughters, a wife, and the whole lot of us were sitting there watching the whole thing. When that penalty went in, our house was bedlam. Like, it was pandemonium. There were tears. It was quite an unexpected moment, Elissia. It was truly, truly remarkable stuff.
Yeah, and look, I got goosebumps even thinking about it. But I was on the call, very fortunate to be a part of, obviously, the World Cup in that space. But to see the sense of occasion, and I mean, for us as football people, I guess, and football fans, it's something we probably longed for in Australia for many, many generations. But number one, it came to fruition. But number 2, it wasn't just football people that fell for that moment. It was literally the whole country. And I think that was so binding for all of us. It was incredible. Best thing since Kathy, I think, that moment that we've had is absolutely sensational.
No doubt about it. And we've seen what the individual play, what it's meant to the world, really, in terms of their reputations and their skill sets. Everybody was watching, and to see so many of the Australian players, as a result of it all, get pretty phenomenal contracts put in front of them by several of the biggest teams around the world has been quite the fallout from the whole thing. Your work through it all was outstanding. Thanks for being part of our program throughout 2023, and we look forward to hearing your voice in 2024. Have a great Christmas. The voice, well, one of the voices of cricket here on 1116 SEN belongs to Adam Watt, and we've charged him with the responsibility to give us the three biggest moments in cricket in 2023. Whitey, good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Number three, what is it for you, Shags?
Number three, I'm putting down as Glenn Maxwell's 201 not out in Mumbai against Afghanistan in the World Cup this year.
Yes.
I think, look, it's when you look back on it, it's quite extraordinary what he did. Obviously, 201 off 128 balls with 21 fours and 10 sixes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was more the fact that he put on a partnership of 202 with Pat Cummins.
Correct.
Of which Maxie scored 179 of them. It was 7 for 91 when Pat Cummins came to the crease when Australia needed 291 or 292 to beat Afghanistan. We were dead in the water and Maxie did what he did. So that's the sort of the figures around it. But then to see how he did it with some of the shots he played, struggling with cramp, one-handed sixes, falling over, collapsing, hitting sixes, it was one of the most extraordinary innings we'll ever see, I think, and it comes in at number three.
Yeah, well, LeBron James is unhappy to hear that, of course, whenever he hears an athlete performing great deeds while suffering cramps. It embarrasses.
So just letting yourself
It just
down.
embarrasses LeBron James.
Just letting yourself
But
down.
anyway, that's number three. Number two, Whitey, what is it for you, please?
Number two for me was the Lord's Test. Just the sheer controversy and the tension around not only the Johnny Bairstow stumping, but there was also the catch that Mitchell Starc took that was overturned. That was Nathan Lyon going out to bat on one leg, having pinged his calf. It was Ben Stokes scoring 155 in the fourth innings and nearly pulling off the remarkable victory. And then obviously the shenanigans in the long room and just the overall crowd at Lord's, which is usually a respectful crowd. It was like being at the soccer. It was just an extraordinary couple of days. So I guess you can cover the entire Ashes Test series, the whole baseball thing as maybe a category, but to isolate one, I think it was certainly what happened at Lord's.
Oh, and the sleep deprivation we're all struggling through that 6 or 7 week period. Remember how little sleep we were getting?
Well, Andy, and this is where I can show off here. I was actually there, and to be part of it and to actually understand just how emotional it all was for the crowd and how angry they got at times at their own players with the way that they played baseball. Because baseball's not really accepted at Lord's as a traditional way of playing cricket. And then to see what Ben Stokes did as an angry man with Stuart Broad on that last day when they nearly pulled off the remarkable. The whole 5 days was 5 days I'll never forget.
No, you're a lucky man to be
Extraordinary.
there. Thank you, Andrew. It was extraordinary, no question about it. And number one, Whitey, I think it's going to be pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Well, I think it has to be the World Cup victory with the heroics of Travis Head. But not only that, but also just the way the Australians played the whole match, from doing the right thing when they won the toss to the way that Pat Cummins captained the side through India's innings to have them in a situation where at one point India was 1 for 76 in the 10th over, but then to only make 240, that's India. And then without anyone really dominating was just an overall really good team display. And then for Travis Head to do what he did, 137 off 120 balls, and then Marnus Labuschagne coming into the team, selected to do exactly what he did, which was to get hard runs if Australia lost early wickets. The ball was swinging around corners in that first 10 overs. And they looked on Australia when Steve Smith was dismissed. But Travis Head just kept doing what he always seems to do, and they won. And I think, to win a World Cup in India against an Indian team that had not been defeated in the tournament, it didn't even look like getting beaten through the tournament, but to beat them in the game that mattered most, I think that has to be the highlight of the year.
See the crowd just in stunned silence the way they were, Keith. Just nothing.
It was.
No noise.
Zero.
Not just...
The flat performance from the Prime Minister of India too. That really didn't go to script for the PM.
No, well, you don't want to be there in front of 100,000 people in the stadium bearing your name, expecting to have a triumphant moment with your team winning the World Cup, only to be defeated. And then when he left Pat Cummins on the victory stage, they just said, "There's your trophy, see you later," and they just wandered away. Most unbecoming. Whitey, super job. I don't think Gazy's got any criticisms of any of that.
I think he's nailed it.
Strong
I
top
wanted to
three.
put Todd Murphy in. I wanted to put Todd Murphy in for his 7 wickets on debut after playing just 7 first-class matches, but he just didn't quite get the top 3.
Yeah, no, Whitey,
Honourable mention.
You're only allowed 3.
Honourable mention.
true.
Oh, I don't think we gave anyone else any opportunities for honourable
Well, you
mentions.
slip one in and we'll cop it.
Right, top 3 moments in basketball. Keith, what are they for the year?
There's plenty going on, but
Just
I'm going
3,
to
mate. Just 3.
number 3. I'm going to go with Germany winning the gold medal. First time they've won a gold medal at the World Cup.
So that's a bronze medal.
The gold medal.
No, this is the bronze medal of your top 3.
Yeah. That's coming in as the 3rd.
Yep.
Second, I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets winning their first ever NBA title.
Ooh.
But intertwined with that is just the spectacular form of Nikola Jokic. Now, I know he didn't win the MVP. Some would suggest that he should have, but he didn't. But he got the grand prize of all.
So you've got a club team in a provincial competition over a world team winning their first ever World Cup. Okay, interesting.
Well,
No, it's interesting. Oh, it's interesting that that's the way you see it in this particular year, in a World Cup year. But anyway.
well, it's not. Do you know how many international players are playing in the NBA, Andy? So it's not
Probably
like.
lots.
Yeah, there is.
Well, they're all international players.
What do you mean?
Well,
no,
they're
they're
all-
not American. You're saying it's
Yeah,
it's a domestic competition. It's a domestic competition that is able to attract the greatest players in the world.
Of course it is, Keith.
Well, I don't think you're recognising that.
No, of
Andy.
course I do, but it's a World Cup,
Okay.
Keith. And you've always
And
been a
then,
great advocate for the World Cup.
And again, just an Australian flavour. I'm going to go with the Sydney Kings as the number 1. Back-to-back NBL titles. Very hard to win. To win 2 in a row. Outstanding performance by the Sydney Kings. That's it. Germany 3, Denver 2, and the Sydney Kings 1.
The gold medal, though, to the Sydney Kings, of those 3, ranked number 1.
For this year,
Yeah.
here in Australia.
No, but ranked number 1, biggest basketball story
Here in
of the
Australia.
year, of the year.
For me in
you,
Australia,
for you.
as an Australian. Yeah, that's right. You got a problem with that?
A few people probably would. Yeah.